When it comes to cleaning natural fibers like wool, silk, and cotton, the stakes can be high, especially if those materials have been exposed to biological contaminants. Forensic cleaning in these situations requires a specialized understanding of both the science of contamination and the delicate nature of these natural fibers. Today, we'll dig into the strategies, the tools, and expertise that you need to clean and preserve these valuable materials while ensuring safety and compliance as well. So, whether you're in restoration, textile care, forensic response, anything regarding cleaning of natural fibers, this discussion will give you practical insights you will not want to miss. And to do that, I'm pleased to welcome a returning guest, Tim Damroth. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. I know you're in sunny California. I know it rains there too, and you have fires, but you cover a lot of area there in California with your clients, don't you?
I do. I go statewide, and actually for special projects, I'll go out of state. So
Okay.
recently, I just got back from Southern California, where it was much warmer. So,
Yeah, I hear you. Winter will be here soon enough. But Tim, what people don't know, Tim, is that you are often sending me these cool pictures of things you're dealing with out there. And so that's why we're here today, because I have a selection of pictures, as I mentioned in our introduction. There's silk, there's wool, there's cotton, there's other natural fibers out there that you clean all the time. And it's not just cleaning. When there's blood or contaminants, vomit, different issues, you have to have a special approach for that, don't you?
absolutely. And what I do is look at the fibers themselves. With natural fibers, they're extremely absorbent. So we have to understand what got on them in the first place. And if we don't have that information, we need to clean slowly. I always say I like to put the T in time for tact.
Hmm.
And that includes inspection because these fibers have inherent characteristics that become apparent when we wet them, especially when we saturate them and during the drying process. And we all know about browning, shrinking, and other characteristics to the fabrics that frighten people and especially cleaners and make them want to run away and say, I'll never clean that again. But if we know how to handle them with a higher standard of care, we can limit those inherent characteristics from ballooning into a browning situation that's, tragic, or a wrinkle that can't be fixed. They're also so sensitive to degradation, chemically and physically, and they're often expensive and sentimental. And so these are good reasons to be very, very careful and go slow when cleaning them.
Absolutely. When you think about what the phrase forensic cleaning, what it means, what are the biggest risks, both to health and the fibers themselves when contaminants are involved? Because I imagine when you're dealing with an issue, and we'll get to some pictures here in a moment, and there's blood or vomit, you have to be careful, don't you? Talk about that.
Yeah, so first and foremost, you have to protect yourself. I like to say use a tier one respirator. Not everybody has access to a hazmat suit, but at least go in with a double Tyvek, Viton booties, and at the very least, neoprene gloves and comparable goggles so that your eyes are protected from UV you may use. There's no entry point on the skin. You may tape off your wrists and ankles. The skin is actually many times more absorbent um, to chemicals than it is to water. So petroleums, et cetera, may have a 10x factor of absorbency when, in regards to your skin and eyes. So it's just very important to protect yourself. And then you have to address the fibers, which are often even more fragile than our bodies, or comparably, because we are all biological organisms, as are the natural fibers that we clean. And we need to treat them with care so that they don't lose their dye, that we don't have other issues that crop up. And generally speaking, I find textural change is the most common when exposing them even to a small amount of pH over 10 or an oxidizer over 6%, just to give some examples.
Well, if you're ready, let's look at some of the jobs you've done recently, and let's just talk about what you see, what you did, and the end result. You ready for that?
Sure.
Okay, Tim, we have a picture here, a sofa. What I'm noticing though is in front of the sofa on the carpet. What is that? Talk about that.
So this is a urine stain from one of my client's dogs on minimally processed wool carpet that has a cotton and jute backing. And the jute is green and unstable in its dye. lots. And so too much moisture and it begins wicking. Knowing that it was had already been cleaned several times, I understood that what I'm looking at is no longer really urine and an odor problem, but more of a pigmented stain. And so I tested it with several different chemicals after doing a dry crock test that failed, um, and realized that it was going to be best to use a reducer like Browning treatment. And unfortunately, soaking it and sucking at it and blotting at it didn't work. And I had recently been experimenting with new blacklight that I got and was recommended to by my mentor, Tom Cermak. And I created an isolation box. Um, and after re-wetting the spot lightly with less than an ounce of fluid,
Is that
I
what
put
this is here?
that's what that is. I put the
Okay.
box over the spot and I turned on the light. And this is a high intensity UV light that is exceptional when it comes to finding urine and body fluid and other contaminants. And I was able to reduce the stain down to about 95% removal. And that is essentially by rendering the pigment invisible to the naked eye. Doesn't mean that anything went anywhere. It's a process where you use the reducer and the light together to affect the pigment or the dye in the urine.
Okay,
Uh,
so that's what we see here.
yeah, that's what you see there.
I don't see a spot. I'm looking.
They were very happy.
Our next example, Tim, you sent this little video here. So, what kind of house of horrors are you in?
Yeah, so this is tragically urine contamination from two cats and a dog, and potentially from an individual on a long runner. And there were several other rooms like this. So I went in and I, of course, was called for the odor, but we couldn't see any of the stains at all. But using the UV light, it lit up like fireworks. And so I was able to identify that it was out of control and that the carpets needed to be removed. And in the meantime, that I would do a salvage attempt cleaning for the odor and any urine stains that were visible. Or in the photo you're showing now, the
Mhm.
brown sort of crescent at the bottom, that's blood. Under UV, blood can show as brown or invisible.
Okay.
And so sometimes we're dealing with two or three different types of contamination, and we have to use something that's okay for the fabric and going to fix the problem.
But we're talking about replacement here.
Ultimately, yeah,
Mm.
it's just the age of the client. So, they want to get the most out of the carpet as possible.
And then we have a picture. Looks like you have a light on the wall. Is that
Mhm.
more contamination on the wall?
Yeah, so I was called into a industrial facility that a client had purchased over a lingering odor, and all the walls looked like they'd just been painted, brand new. And yet, when I put the UV light on the wall, this is what fluoresced. And if you look at the area around the center, the spots are generally brown. So I imagined that it was a bad cleanup job on a bloody wall. And the red in the middle tells me that it was finished using a reducer, because oftentimes where reducers are used show up as red on a black light. So I had my own way of approaching this, and I had to be very careful given that this is more of a trauma than a dog peeing or, you know, other examples.
Okay. We have one more job to look at. Okay, Tim, this looks like a very small spot, but what are we looking at?
So this is a very expensive custom corduroy silk carpet that my clients have in two rooms, which are area rugs. And they live in a part of San Francisco where they have some wildlife. And something got in the house, whether it was brought in by the dog was unclear, and bled on the carpet where it was walking or running. And I immediately remembered that it's important to do a crocking test on blood, no matter how old it is, because it can take months, if not years, to cure completely. And as soon as you add water to the equation or any fluid, it begins to balloon and halo. So what you see there is my crock towel that I blotted and twisted at the spots with. And I was actually able to successfully remove over 90% of these stains without anything at all other than the towel. And that's the image you're seeing
There we
now,
go.
is that All I had to do afterwards was a VLM treatment on the surface, and I don't mean with a special machine or anything. I just mean very low moisture. That's all I mean by that.
Well, great pictures. Of course, you're going to keep them coming for future episodes, so we look forward to that. But it's always nice to see the before and afters and the story behind the removal efforts that you no doubt have found very successful for you and your company. But to wrap up our program today, for companies, my last question, Tim, for companies in cleaning or restoration that face these challenges, how can specializing in natural fiber care set them apart from the industry and lead to growth opportunities? Because that's what people really want to see.
I'll start by saying that for me, this is a career, not a job. So it doesn't end when I go home. I go home and I keep researching and I draw from biology and chemistry and physics and even mathematics. I create diagrams and I think a lot about my work. So I think that for a company that's going to get into or is specializing in natural fibers and even forensics, they should draw from other schools of thought, other trades, other places so that we can um, do more than just what we're called upon to do, and essentially the limits of the industry, because there are so many humongous limitations with our industry. And I'll just say lastly, for example, most people think that rust is only chemically soluble, but you can actually remove rust stains from natural fibers doing a crocking test with a towel with no fluid at all. And I never would have got to that point if I hadn't have done so much research.
Well, here's some advice to you. Ready? Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.